Time. We are live. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Whole You Candid Conversations. This month, I am honoring fathers by in celebrating fathers in honor of Father's Day this month, and all of my guests will be men. I'm super excited because I don't want to just make it a woman show. But I have a very special guest with me. I know him as Bolle, and some of you might know him as Bolle as well. But I have Michael Johns with me today, and he is a mentor. He is a director of student affairs, correct?
Student activities.
Student
Close.
activities, okay.
Close. Close.
Student activities in higher education.
Mhm.
And he's also owner of the a Gentleman's Bakery. So I'm going to give him an opportunity to introduce himself, and I'm going to let you do that now.
Oh, cool. Well, good evening, everyone. As you stated, my name is Michael Johns, but all my friends call me Bolle. Um, yeah, native Chicagoan. Still currently stay in Chicago, and it really has been drawn to the work of helping support people, throughout the course of their life. And so, whether that's in education or that's an advice I can give them, just whatever I can do, right? And so, I try to be all around good guy. At least I hope that's my reputation is. But I just really like to just support and help, and that's it. Really, I'm a
Yeah.
father, I'm a husband, a brother, a son, all the narrative pieces to that point. And so, so we're looking forward to this conversation,
Yes.
share a little bit about myself, and just hoping to provide some positivity out there for everyone.
Yes, I'm very excited to have you on. So there's so much that we can go into, but I definitely want to start with um talking about your passions in mentorship, working with other youth, because we kind of had a side conversation, and I really liked your story about it. So tell me, where did it all started, or where did it all start, and what was the passion behind it, or what is the passion behind it?
Yeah. So I think a lot of it's just rooted in just my own personal experience. And so if I think back to myself as a youth and the amount of people that helped and supported me and my upbringing, I think that was pivotal because I could have had a very different life than what I've had. And I
Hmm.
can pinpoint points in my life where people have stepped in and said, "Hey, you should do this or you should do
Yeah,
that." Right.
yeah,
And so what I didn't know at that time, that it was mentorship. I just thought, they were just randomly helping me out and such. And
mhm,
so I kind of took that on. And so as I like to be helpful or was helping in the past, I try to offer that support to people in
mhm,
whatever facet that was. And so whether that was um, something physical like helping with moving, or if that was a person that wanted to listen to about their problems and concerns, just always wanted to be that listening ear for someone
yeah,
in life, right? And so that was friends, that was family. What no matter what it was, I was just trying to be a support for that. And so
yeah,
that turned into me really sitting down at college and saying like, "Hey, what am I good at? What I want to do?"
mhm,
And helped me to choose my undergraduate major. And so I ended up graduating with a degree in sociology and was really interested in the fact of how the environment affected the individual. And so growing up in the city, it really intrigued me. So how did it growing on the south side of Chicago really impact me as an individual and the decisions I made up to that point, right? And
yeah,
so
yeah,
that got deeper and allowed me to go into clinical mental health counseling and my master's program, which was also again rooted in really supporting and helping individuals
yeah,
throughout their path. And so, in a traditional sense of going into therapy and um, counseling individuals on a daily basis, I didn't necessarily look at it like that. I looked at it as a way to refine my skills and really communicate with people a different way than
yeah,
was previously and how to
yeah,
support them. So, so
yeah.
yeah, so that was kind of the root of it. Then I got into education, and again, because my younger sister has some challenges with going to higher education, I thought I could make a transition that and help and support her in that space. And so that kind of birthed that, and then one career led into the next, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, you here you are. I just want to say everybody, he's a father. So he said that. So we are going to hear the babies and it is okay. Cuz I mean, what better way? Hi.
Yeah,
Hi, gorgeous. She is your twin. You
yeah, she is definitely my twin.
don't show your So I just want to say that I don't think any of my viewers are having a problem with this. So please, please do not feel uncomfortable. But I am really look. I look
Louder.
Hold on one second. The other one say
Hello.
hi too. Say hi, Kendall.
Hi.
Hi,
This is my
Kendall.
sister.
I look. I see. How old are your girls? Tell us about your girls.
4.
Yeah, they can tell you about themselves. So, how old are you, Kennedy?
4.
Okay. And how old is
Oh my
Kendall?
goodness.
2.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. 2 and 4.
Yeah.
So what is that like? Because we always hear it from the mom's perspective. I love to hear what is that like fatherhood. We'll go back to your experience, but what is fatherhood like with 2 young ones?
It is interesting, right? What you may necessarily think it is not, right? Is I think is that and more, right?
Yeah.
There's not a situation
Yeah,
where
move.
it's a plan. Hold on one second.
No, you're fine. Yeah.
It's random, right?
Yeah.
They'll come beat you up for some crackers, which they're currently doing right now. But it's a joy, right? I
Mhm.
think it has its tough moments, but when you sit back and think about like the responsibility of parenthood is big, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
very audacious things, but to see them, grow and learn and pick up their own personality, I think is amazing, right? And I think that's what
Mhm.
I love about it is that every day is a new adventure. Again, some days are
Yes.
tougher than others.
Yes.
It's a new adventure every day.
Yeah. How has that like changed what it is or what you talked about how you were being mentored growing up. I'm Chicago born and raised. I've also had that experience having mentors in school. That has impacted me in my life. So I know how important it is to do this work. But we do it blindly. And what I mean by that is you are working with kids. You don't know who you're going to get. You don't know what walk of life they're coming from. You don't know what is going on in their lives, where you can sort of have an influence on them in or sort of change their perspective. What is that like? How does that change for you now that you have your own children? Because I know it does. So,
Yeah, I think in some regards, I think it does and it doesn't. I think as
mhm.
long as you are operating from your true self and
Yeah.
I think that place of honesty and love and trust you're trying to build will navigate
I got my
throughout
own.
throughout all experiences. And I think that's
Yeah.
the same way that this works. You know what I'm saying?
My
That
twin.
I know you are his dad.
Twin. This is
yeah,
my twin.
here you go. There are your crackers.
Wait. Why am I here? And then
Sorry again.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
And so I think that's what it is, right? Is it always going to be something that you get right all the time? No,
Oh,
right? But as long as you are letting people know that you're operating from your true self and you're not trying to do
I
something
can't
rooted
get this
in
out.
mischief or you're
mhm,
intentionally trying to hurt someone, and you
mhm.
can own it, right? And so if you
Yeah.
do mess up, just say, "Hey, I'm sorry. I thought
Yeah.
this was the
Hey,
right
I'm
move for you.
sorry.
I thought this was the right move." So, um, yeah, I think that's what helps to navigate some of that for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that because I've also had my experience in mentoring youth and working with youth in church, outside of church. And I mean, I have 4 kids. So it definitely in some ways it did impact me because like I said, you kind of know what it's like when you started before having kids. I started while I was in the midst of having kids, or I've had kids already. And so for me it just kind of changed how I parent my kids because you have to have like a certain patience. You have to be more empathetic. You have to be that person because sometimes most times when you're mentoring youth they come from a troubled home, and if you haven't personally experienced it, it is like eye-opening to you. And you have a different, when you're doing this work, you are definitely a person with patience. Not everyone, but for me, I'm patient and I'm very empathetic. So doing this, it has changed me because it helps me to appreciate and be grateful for what I do have. But
Mhm.
it also kind of changed how I parent my kids and being patient with them and just appreciating what they also have as well. So I'm
You
sorry.
gotta
That's
always remember. No, but you gotta remember though, right? At some point in
Mhm.
time, we were that for someone else,
Yes.
and so
Yes.
we forget about our humble beginnings and how
Mhm.
we might have. I mean, not to say people were necessarily quote unquote bad kids, right?
No,
But
no.
someone had an assumption of us at that time frame, and we were
Mhm.
operating within the gifts or strengths or knowledge base that we had at that current moment, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I think now as an adult, I try not to forget that as part of my,
Mhm.
engagement with youth is that they 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 have their own understanding of life,
Yeah.
right? So,
It's okay. Look, you are completely fine.
well,
Okay. I know you're gonna stop and take breaks. That's fine. But I'm
oh
not,
yeah,
it's not that does not bother me. I just want to
okay,
let
all
you
right, all right.
know. Let me go back because there's so many things that you do. And it's like I said, I was looking at your resume and I was like, oh my God. But I really, really am inspired by your work. So
Mhm,
you also did community outreach as well, right?
mhm, mhm.
Um, and we already talked about what inspired you, but can you tell me more about that?
Yeah. Hold on 1 second. There you
Yeah.
go, big girl. You all good? All right. You want to try that? There you go. Good job, Minnie. Um, yeah. So I mean, again, a lot of this work is just rooted in things that I've seen over the course of time and the work that I've done, right? And so, in terms of like thinking about community outreach, it's just people need resource support,
Yeah.
advocacy, right? And so the work is really trying to give voice to the voiceless, right? And
Yeah.
so we sit in our privilege quite often and we don't
Yeah.
recognize we sit in privilege. And so the fact that we can sit here and have this discussion on the internet, there are a lot of my students who don't have that same privilege, right? And
Yeah.
so it's rooted in that, right? And just again
Mhm.
trying to help and support them doing the work that they want to do or give them the resources they might want to have. And so it's
Mhm.
not to um just take light of like the things I've come to appreciate and
Yeah.
empower myself and comfort in. Like there's
Mhm.
always someone else who needs some additional support in some way, shape, or fashion, right? And so I think I
Mhm.
might have shared with you
Yeah.
something I was talking about. Like I often feel bad about people I see who are homeless, right? Like I want to
Yeah.
hear that story and understand how to get there. And I think there's this misconception that everyone has mental health issues and challenges. Like no, sometimes really just fall on bad luck.
Yeah.
And through outreach, you get to hear some of these stories or possibly even help and support them transition back into a space of safety and security, right? Because
Yes.
I remember a story a friend told me of someone who was like a banker and
Mhm.
one of the banks went under. And so the
Yeah.
wife left him, took the house, took the kids, and he had nothing. It wasn't that he was mentally ill, he just had
Just lost everything. Yeah. Yeah.
right.
That is so amazing. You know what? I also do. Um, we have to do more for homeless people too,
Mhm.
and that is so true because I think, like you said, everyone labels everything mental health, whether it's never really good. It's never really good, but even bad, like even the situation with the school shooting. I'm not going to go into it, but I'm just saying, like, it's quick to say, like, oh, that person has mental health issues, and it's just like everything is a mental health issue. That's so important that you say that. Some people just have some challenges in their life, and sometimes they don't know a way out of it. They don't have the resources or the tools, and also here's the other thing about homeless people that I think is very important is sometimes people just want to be heard, and we kind of overlook them. We're just like, that's not me, that's not my story, and some people like, I don't care, and some people don't know how to help, but they're overlooked, and it's very it touches me in a special way too, like just to see people in that way, because it's like, it could be any one of us, and it's not a time that I don't think about that. So I do like that. How has your work impacted you personally?
Well, I joke with people often like I didn't go into education to get rich, right?
Yeah.
uh, and so it's one of those spaces where it does get difficult, it does get tough.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, like, man, I could be somewhere else making some more money, but
Mhm.
then you meet that young man or young woman who helps to help you to recalibrate on why you're doing this work. It's not about an economic gain. It's about personal development and allowing someone to see their own genius as they're navigating their own path. Right? I think it's key for us to share our story, what we've been through, but not get blinded by that. Let it be a testimony to someone else to say like, hey, again, I'm not walking in the exact same shoes that you have, but I've had some similar experiences, right? Or maybe not. Maybe I have not had some of those similar experiences, right? But I think it's a way for us to reconnect with our people. And so for me, it's really about that transitional piece for someone that I'm engaging with, right? That's what's fulfilling. I can do a lot of different things, but I can do a lot of different things, but once you see the importance of that time investment in someone, and a lot of times it doesn't happen immediately, right?
Yeah.
I've had former students come back 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years later. It was like, hey Mike, I remember you did X for me, I appreciate that. Or I'm often telling them this too, like, you're not gonna understand what I'm telling you now. My numbers are gonna never change. When you realize and have that aha moment, just shoot me a text, give me a call, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of the times it's really just laying, the groundwork for a better tomorrow. And so you may necessarily reap the benefits of it per se, but at least you've left the legacy in someone that will then, utilize that in whatever shape, form, or fashion it might need to moving forward.
Absolutely. Like, this work isn't about you. And you go into it thinking that you're not helping anyone by perceiving that. So it's definitely not about you. It is about the impact that you have on others, what impact that you leave on others. What do you find is the most challenging part of what you do?
Ooh, I don't know if we got enough time for that. I would say a couple of things, right? I think there is one, a lack of resources, right? So I think in sheer general, like there's always a lack of resources when you're trying to do work that's helping supporting people. But there's always resources for other things. But again, like the conversation earlier, that could be a long conversation about something else.
Yeah.
I would say that. I think one of the other pieces, I think really for me, is really the trust building, right? It takes time to build trust with a lot of the students that I work with, because they have been impacted negatively by so many different people. And so building that trust is really, really hard for them to allow for that to happen.
Yes. It definitely takes time building trust with someone, to be able to, work with them and to figure out what it is they need. Sometimes people, young people, because you work with adults, they don't even know what it is that they need. And I can imagine that's probably even more challenging, because you're trying to guide them and assist them and kind of help them, find clarity in that. Have it ever been a situation where you took work home?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I used to be notorious for that. And again, because it's a passion piece, right? I think because we own this work so much that we feel like we're obligated and we can't let go of it.
Yes.
That term of self-care, you hear it, it's like a taboo word for a lot of people, but you don't really understand that until you're in really toxic environments where you have an anxiety attacks, or you can't sleep, or you can't eat, you have all these different troubles, and you feel like you can't put out the output that you want to put out, but you're burnt out, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's really recognizing that piece of, hey, let me turn this off. And so I've gotten to a point where I can manage that line pretty well. At one point in my career, I was working to an office at like 7, 8 o'clock. I would come home, be up to 2 or 3 in the morning, trying to get work, just to get back into work in the morning.
Wow.
At 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, just try to maintain, because we're in a meeting heavy culture. And so that just taught me, like, at the end of the day, they'll replace you. right?
Yeah.
So
And then not think anything of it.
nope, nope,
Not
nope,
think
nope,
anything of it.
nope.
How did you cope? How did you manage? Because you talk about anxiety
Mhm.
and you talk about, panic attacks. How did
Mhm.
you learn to cope with it? How did you learn to manage all of that? Taking care of yourself.
Yeah, well, some of it was me actually identifying with other people at the institution that it wasn't just me. I thought it was a only me situation. I thought everyone was operating this optimal place, doing everything right, and it just so happened to come out randomly one day. I was talking to one of my coworkers, and I was like, "Oh wow, you feel like that too?"
Yeah.
And it just led to a different conversation. And so I think that allowed for me to have a shared experience with someone else around what I was going through, right? And so it became somewhat of my accountability point, right? That as I was navigating challenging times, I can check in with him, and as he was navigating challenging times, he can check in with me, and that kind of let the walls down, right? And then that let us to have other conversations with other people about how they're feeling. So it's not us, it's the environment that we're in. So I think that was.
And then you can,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish.
No,
I was just saying like you can. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
And I think that was part of the breakthrough for me, like having a shared experience and conversation with someone else about the toxic traits or toxicity of the space that I was in.
Human service is hard. It's hard. But I like that you said that because I think, I know so many people that are doing what you do in different capacities, and they don't really understand how important it is to have that community. Like you're not doing it alone. And there are people, your coworker, your teammate, your partner, they're like going through the same thing, and like being able to share that. There are some people that are not willing to do that, honestly.
That's true.
So I really like the fact that you and your team are able to do that, because people literally come to work, they have their issues, and it's similar to yours, and they like, I don't even want to waste my time talking about it. But that's really good that you have that community and that support. But being able to share strategies and tools that can help, that you both can benefit from, that is just amazing. And I think that is just so important when it comes to mental health, taking care of your mental health, your well-being, self-care. So I really like that. What advice do you have someone that wants to get into the same field that you're in?
Working higher education. I mean, and as bad as this might sound, you don't really necessarily have to major in higher ed, right? There are a lot of people in this space that have MBAs, who have like quite a few different degrees, right? They just found they found an entry point into something. Typically it's into admissions or housing or maybe first year experience for people. And then you kind of navigate through higher ed and kind of the path you want to chart, right? And so so for me, my admission point was admissions. And so I worked in admissions, I worked in TRIO. I worked as, you say as a male mentoring coordinator. I've worked at a nonprofit as director of mentors and volunteers. Again, now working as director of student engagement. And so you just kind of how to chart your path, but also be grounded in who you are and kind of how you want to navigate that, right? And so I think that with any career path, with any career path you may have, like this challenge, this imposter syndrome, and such. And so you just really kind of got to just get rooted in like, what's your why and what you want to do.
Definitely.
And a lot of times I think people aren't comfortable with saying, actually, I don't know. There's nothing wrong with not knowing. But
there's nothing wrong with that.
But there's something wrong with not knowing and sitting in it, because then you find yourself a year, 2, 3, 5, 10. You're like, man, life has just passed me by. I haven't done anything that I'm passionate about, right? And so, so it's about spreading your wings. Even though you charted on one path. I mean, again, I'm in higher ed, and I found myself in bacon. And we're
gonna talk about that in a bit. But I do really want to say, like, I really feel like you embody that. Like you branched off in so many things. I mean, it's all, the same, but you have your master's in clinical health.
Mhm.
And to me, I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, I'm not sure how that ties into what you do, but it certainly does tie into
Mhm.
what you do.
Yeah,
And then now you're here. I do have one question. We're gonna
sure.
talk about it soon, but I do
No,
have
you're
one
fine.
question. What made you stick with higher education?
Um, I think some of it was, I think two parts. One, it was I was comfortable in it.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I'm not gonna say something of ease, but something that I knew.
Mm-hmm.
I also had this vision of ultimately being a college president, right?
Oh yeah.
So I wanted to go that whole trajectory of, dean and VP and all this other stuff.
Is
So
that
that was
still a
kind
goal?
of, say it again.
Is that still a goal?
No, it's not.
Daddy's not working.
It's not. It's not at all. And the reason why, right? We talked about
Mhm.
work-life balance, and so for some, and again, not to knock anyone who's in these spaces, right? But what I realized for me is that I could be a workaholic, right?
Yes.
So I know that about myself, and so if I put myself in spaces where that will become to occupy my time,
Mhm.
it will, right? And having a 4 and a 2-year-old,
Yeah.
you got to make the noise. Having a 4 and
You
two
want
year
to
old, I
sing
felt
first?
it was more important for me to be present for them at this current
Yeah.
stage than to be committed to a job. And so I already spend more hours there than I do at home.
Yeah.
But as you climb up that ladder, your time is not your time anymore.
Yes.
And so now someone can call me and I'll be like, okay, I'll get that at 9 o'clock in the morning. If a president call you, your VP, they want something that night, you kind of got to get up and get it done. And so I was just mindful about where I was in my current space, the happiness that I wanted to have, the things I wanted to see, and and found comfort in being where I am right now. Is there a
Yeah.
space where I want to navigate other than this? Absolutely. I think the world is my oyster. I just, you have to have that discussion and figure out that path of where you want to go.
But you're like in a really good space and it works for your family. Because that's the most important part. Like, does it work for your family?
Yes.
And
Yes.
you have 2 young ones. And
Mhm.
so yeah, I've definitely had, like I said, I have 4. So I know
Mhm.
what it's like trying to balance work and life,
Mhm.
especially when you have younger kids. And
Mhm.
then of course, as they get older, you're like, I got all the time in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, I still have a 7-year-old. So, and my other 2, they're in middle school, one going into high school, and my daughter is out of high school. So for me, yes, I do have a little bit more freedom, but I still have to think about my
Right.
youngest one because he
Right.
still needs me more
Right.
than the other 2. But I want to talk about the baking.
The
So you
randomness that it is.
yeah, so let's get into it. But you started your own business, your own bakery business, the
Mhm.
Gentleman's Touch.
Yep.
Tell us, how did that start?
Um, the pandemic, actually, the
Yeah.
stay-at-home order.
Yeah.
um, yeah. So again, like in March of 2020, we got the
Yeah.
stay-at-home orders,
Mhm.
and I mean, just being in the house all day, I was working pretty crazy. I was probably working more at home than I was in the office because you just roll out of bed, brush your teeth, wash your face, and get to work and
Yeah.
look up, you didn't take a lunch. And so I needed to find something that would allow me to shift my mind, in a different way, right? And so,
Mhm.
so I had my family. We were, watching movies. We had all that thing going on, but it was just something that I just needed to craft out for myself. And so, I seen someone that attended Northern NIU. I went to school at NIU.
Yes, you didn't say that.
I didn't know.
He
I'm
is a
sorry.
Northern Illinois
Right.
alumni. Am I saying it right?
Yes,
That's actually how we cross paths.
this is true. This is
I
true.
met you through my husband.
This is true.
We both graduated from Northern, and
Mhm.
so that's how I met you. I usually always say how I know my guests because I always know my guests from somewhere. But that is how we met.
Yes. Yeah.
So I
Sorry
just
about that.
no,
I
no,
was
no,
probably
you're
distracted by these 2 wonderful children of
you
mine
are
screaming in the
fine.
background.
Actually, I should have done it, so it's on me. No, you're fine. But go ahead with your story.
Yeah. So I seen somebody from NIU baking a pound cake. and I was on Facebook, and I was like, you know what, I can do that. And so I just set out and just start looking the internet through recipes. What you want, big girl? You don't want anything. Watch out, that. Just start watching. I mean, just start looking the internet for recipes, right? And so I don't know how many I looked through, but landed up on a pound cake. I was like, oh, I think this would be good.
Yeah.
And so went to the store, got the ingredients, and made it. And I was like, oh. Okay. 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 And so I made a pound cake. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And so then I was like, thank you, big girl. Okay.
I love it. I love it.
Go finish watching. Yeah, okay.
I love it. They want to share those samples with us, and I love it. I really do. What flavor was the pound cake?
It was just a regular pound cake. It wasn't any specific flavor to it. It was just really like butter, vanilla, lemon abstract, eggs, and like a third cup of milk. Like, so it wasn't nothing. That's funny. I can just remember that.
I know that is amazing. Look, I am not a baker, but I have done the cake from scratch. And child, let me tell you, I do not have the energy for it. I could not do it like often. Really interested to know that that's something that you picked up on during the pandemic.
Yeah. So did that, and I told myself I'll bake something every week.
Yeah.
And then it started baking every week. Challenge? No, just something to do.
Because when you mentioned that you learned, you saw someone else do it, I didn't know if it was like, oh, I'm gonna challenge myself to do it, or was it sort of like, no, oh, that looks like something cool to do, I'll do it too.
Yeah, it was somewhat of a challenge. Yeah, because I mean, it wasn't something that's my natural wheelhouse. Like I enjoy cooking, and doing that type of thing. But I mean, baking when I was younger, yes, but not something I've done more recently. And so I guess in some sense it was a challenge.
Yeah. So from that, how do we get to a gentleman's touch?
A lot of baking. Hold on one second. Let me make a transition. All right, sorry about that.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
All right.
Yeah.
So I was baking every week, and I was posting on social media. And so at one point, people just like, "Hey, man, you should start selling these items." And I was like, no, not really. That wasn't my goal. It was just really just to challenge myself to bank something every week. And probably a couple of months of just posting stuff, someone just hit me up, and my inbox was like, "Hey, name your price and I'll buy a cake from you." And I was like, well, I don't really know how to price a cake out. And so I was like, $20 or $25, something like that. And so sold the cake. They came back like a day later and say, hey, I need another one for next week because my dad ate half of my cake.
Oh, wow.
And so I made it again. And they were just telling me like, hey, you should really try this, right? You should really give some effort to this. And so I had another gentleman hit me up for a pound cake, and he was like, oh man, this is amazing. And so he came back again a couple of times, and then eventually I ended up just taking orders that next Thanksgiving for cakes. And so put it out for people. I think I ended up having about maybe 30 or so for Thanksgiving.
And that's like that is the perfect time to
there's a lot of lessons learned in that. And then from there I doubled back and did it for Christmas.
Wow.
And then I ended up having about 40 cakes for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of the spot of it. And so then I had another name for it that it just didn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
And so
But
I
that's
had
how
it.
it is.
Yeah. Because people kept asking, like, what's the name? What's the name? What's the name? I'm just like, I don't really have a name. And so,
Yeah.
so I just kept that name for a while. And then I was having a conversation with this person who does mentorship with about baking businesses, about a name and kind of how I was feeling about it. And so we were just going back and forth, throwing
There's
ideas.
somebody for
Like,
everything, right?
yeah, it is. It is. And she's super dope. Shout out to
Yeah.
Chef Schomburg. She's super dope. Like, she'll give it to you raw. Like, hey, you need to be doing this. You need to be doing that.
Yeah.
She really helps and support. There's a couple hundred of us.
That's
that she
amazing.
helps support. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And so, so going back and forth with her, talking with my wife about ideas, and I just landed like, hey, what about a Gentleman's Touch Bakery? And she was like, I actually like that. And so then I text a couple of my friends to say, hey, I'm thinking about this, the name of the bakery. And it was like, I like that. And so then I sent a message to Chef Schomburg and told her the same thing. She's like, yeah, that's it. And so
yeah,
been running with it since then. So between getting the first okay from the wife, and then through my friends, and then getting the final okay from someone who's in the actual industry, it just aligned well for me to keep the name. And so, and every other person I've talked to was like, that name fits. Like that's the perfect name for you.
that is. I do love the name as well. I haven't bought any of your cakes, and I'm definitely looking forward to it.
We got time.
But it's 40 cakes, 30 cakes, and you're doing this out of your home. Were these whole cakes that you were making? Like, wow.
Yeah.
What was that like? I'm just thinking in my mind, like, what is that like doing at 30 cakes? I'm sure you had help.
The first time, no. I
No?
probably made my wife upset a little bit because I kind of hogged the oven for Thanksgiving. Yeah. So lesson learned, right? But the first time, understand the process of how to do things, I did, right? And so it opened my eyes up to how to be more efficient the next time I did something. And it kind of the same process every time you do things, right? And so the mistakes I made during Thanksgiving, I didn't make during Christmas, because I learned so much from that first time. And so I moved out of my kitchen and actually had someone allow me to use their industrial kitchen to make it. Make the cakes the second time. And so, but again, it's a learning curve, right? So there's a big convection ovens, there's industrial size stoves and things could be, and so it's really kind of in the feel for that as well too. And so it was all a learning curve, right? I think, but
makes you move. You get things done much faster, and you're not feeling as overwhelmed. Did you? I mean, because you're still working. You're working from home, and you're baking. Like, how did you manage your time doing both?
Well, so when I had gaps in my time, it allowed for me to do something, right? And so being in the office, didn't have that. I don't have that same luxury, right? And so if there's something, if I just get a crazy idea, like, oh man, I want to make a bourbon cookie, I can't just stop and do that, right? Now I have to be more strategic about how I make that happen. Versus when we're in the stay at home. I mean, I live in the right. I don't have to worry about taking the kids to daycare. I don't have to worry about transporting to school. I mean, to work. Everything was happening in the house, and so my biggest concern was just getting to the Jewels down the street from my house and back to bake, right? So now I have to be more strategic with how that happens, because now the world in some regard is open back up, and so now I have, like tonight, I had swimming with the little ones.
Oh, that's amazing.
So it just kind of depends on what I have going, and I have to be mindful of not taking on too much.
Yes.
Because that can happen real quick and real easy, because people hit you up in a second, like, hey, I had someone today was like, hey, you got some slices? Nope.
Yeah.
I don't.
That's the thing about a business and still working a full-time job and
Mhm.
managing being a parent and all the other stuff. It's like it's you when you especially when you're starting out in a business, you don't want to say no.
Yep. Yep.
And then you have to remind yourself or tell yourself like you have to set boundaries. You can't always
Mhm.
be available. Like you can't always. Um but I do want to ask, do you have so let me to be clear, you don't just
Mhm.
bake cakes.
True.
Tell us what is all of the things that you make?
Um, most of the things are cakes though,
Mhm.
and so they're
Okay.
either layered cakes, and so you have German chocolate, red velvet. I just made a toasted coconut pineapple
Oh,
layer
that
cake.
sounds good.
Um, it was good, and I'm not saying it's because I made it. I have a key lime cake. I have a peach cobbler shortcake.
Oh,
Um, yeah, it's quite a bit.
I
Um,
know it's a lot. Do you do cheesecakes? Do you do any of that?
so I've done cheesecakes before.
Mhm.
Um, Cheesecakes ain't my jam, right?
Okay.
But I do have something in mind that I want to do. I
Yeah.
actually got an idea from another baker that I want to marry a cake and a cheesecake together. I think would be
Yeah.
phenomenal. So, but I get that question asked a lot.
Do
But
you?
you ever
Yeah.
water baths with some cheesecakes and they crack and
Yeah.
yeah, it becomes a little more difficult. So
I
that
know, I can imagine because that is it's not, it's not it's different. It's more work to
right,
that one and time.
right.
Um, and you do cookies too, right?
Yes, I'll do cookies so we can get some regular chocolate chips. We can do some chocolate chip with some pecans, walnuts,
Yes.
peanut butter. I made the
Oh
double
wow.
chew cookies. Um, yeah, and quite honestly, a lot of the times people say, "Hey, do you make this?" And I'll just tell them like, "Nah," but if you're willing to be the person that we try this out together with,
Yeah.
I'm down to do that. And so,
Yeah.
so I don't often turn down ideas of people just willing to be a part of the process of that with me. And so,
Yeah.
so kind of like when I first made a caramel cake, I was like, hey, look, this caramel takes 2.5 hours to cook.
Yes.
I don't know what's going to happen at the end of it, but if you're willing to be a part of this equation with me,
Hmm.
I'm with it, right? And it turned out to
Yeah.
be
I love caramel cake. Look.
it is a very expensive cake though.
It is work. I it's so many ways you can do it.
Mhm.
And like I said, baking is not my thing. But I did like test out some things and I was just like, I don't know how people do this on a regular basis.
It ain't that bad.
But it isn't. It's just me. It's just me. But what is your goal with a gentleman's bakery?
Um, so I get this often as well. And so at first it was really just a passion project, right? And now it's turned into a legitimate business. And so I think right now for me is to be more intentional about the exposure that I have. And
Yeah.
so being cognizant of my social media posting, doing deals, finally finishing my website,
Yeah.
being mindful of photography that I have of cakes. And so I think it's really a building a solid foundation for the business. And not
Yeah.
to say that I don't necessarily have it, it's just, picking the pieces together to make it make sense in totality. So
Yeah.
I would say that would probably be the first piece of it, really just, structuring the marketability of it. And so I have a
Yeah.
logo and brand colors and all that stuff. And so
Yeah.
just
It's work. It
it
is
is,
work.
it
Yeah,
is, it is,
it's work.
it is.
But that, you know what, that's amazing. Do you do so like everybody do the vendor events. Are you in the future planning to do something like that?
Yeah, so that was part of my other goal, right? And so one of
Yeah,
my goals this summer is to try to actually partake in vendor events.
that's
Um,
amazing.
and so if you know any or anyone has any, shoot them my way. Because
I
again,
know so many people. Yes.
last summer they were on and popping. I haven't seen as many this year.
Yeah. Well,
But
now that everything, we seem to be moving past the pandemic, I guess. But there are so many, right. There are so many events that people are doing, and like myself, I'm trying to get myself out there too. And so definitely, um, The only thing is, I just see so many women, and I think it is really cool to have men in that space. So if you're willing, I definitely would pass it along to you.
Yeah, let me know. And it's funny you say that. And so, excuse me, the baking community I am like in shares like it's a couple hundred of us, and I will probably venture to say, and I might be exaggerating at this, there might be 5 of us that are male. Maybe I'll say 5 to 10 out of about a couple hundred of women, right? And so, and it kind of is what it is, right? I mean, it's not a knock, at all.
It's not a knock. And here's the thing, there are a lot of male entrepreneurs, especially Black men, male entrepreneurs. I like to advocate for us. We need more spaces, but I definitely think that our men need more spaces. And so you might find yourself in a room with a whole bunch of other women, but that's fine. That you will stand out most definitely, and that's good for business, right?
Right. And I think that's what you have to be able to market yourself and understand the demographics of. Let's be honest, who are buying the cakes? There's not a lot of men out buying the cakes. So,
but you can also inspire, because I know I have seen in circles and also on social media where there are men that are out there trying to make a name for themselves, baking, cooking, and it let me just say, it's refreshing for me, because I grew up, and you probably can relate. I grew up in a generation where we always see the women do women do everything. That's not no knock to any men, because I know there are men that do it, but growing up, you didn't see it as much, and now you see it all the time. And so it's refreshing to see. And I think like even growing up, having a place at kitchens, like that wasn't for boys. I mean, me and my sister and I had one, and we also had a younger brother, and he was the only boy. And so he wanted to play with us, but we always felt like, this ain't for you. That's because that's just how we thought, we were trained up to think. But anyway, it is so refreshing, because there are a lot of young men and boys that probably really have a passion for cooking and baking. And now there are men like you that are inspiring them and creating this space where they can say, hey, I can do that too. So I really, really like that for you. And I like that you're doing that.
I appreciate that.
I really like that. Are your girls in on the baking too? Do you bring them in?
Yeah, I've tried. They like the batter though.
Of course.
So if I'm baking for the house, yes.
Yes.
If I'm baking for people, no.
Yeah.
Oh, Daddy, what's that? I'm like, no, it's somebody's cake. Now I got to make this over again because you stuck your finger on there. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. And then they'll stick their finger back in it again.
Yeah. You know what? I'm starting to see that too, where like the younger, I was like, I wish, I didn't have time to do that with my kids when they were younger. Now my youngest one, I can with him, but I think it's so important. I talked about this on my show last week, is creativity and allowing our kids to be imaginative. I think that is so important for them to be able to do that. And what you do is creativity. And so I really like that you are allowing them to jump in on that and take part in that, because you never know how that might impact them later on in life.
That's true. And we got to think about the memories you're making with our kids as well.
Yeah.
So
that is so important. That is so important.
It might be minute to us as parents, but you never know 5, 10, 15 years from now. I remember baking cookies with my dad, or I remember this, I remember that. And so, those insignificant moments for us can be very impactful memories for them. And it also helps to forge the bond between, parents and child, and actually child and parent, to be honest with you, because it goes both ways.
Yes. That is so important. And I think sometimes we get caught in, it has to be perfect, or it has to be a certain way. And we don't always give ourselves grace in that capacity. Parenting having a kid does not come with a book or a manual. It's literally you are learning as you go along, or you're using what you've learned being a child, or what you learned from your parents, and just learn, all of the tools that you develop and things that you learn along the way. But the most important thing is, like, if there's anything that our children want the most out of us, they want our time, and they want to be able to know that they can share their space with us, or we can allow them to come into our space. And so when you talk about memories and bonding, that is so important. It's so important. Man, this has really been a treat.
Oh,
Talking with
I
you.
enjoyed this.
And having you on as my first male guest.
Sorry for the little ones and a lot of the
No, it is
the
perfect.
distractions.
Let me tell you, that is so perfect because this is about fatherhood. I mean, it's about what you do, but it's definitely about fatherhood, and it's perfect. It is seeing you in your space, so it's nothing to
Trying not to
be.
get kicked by a kid and an iPad. Like, all right, hey, sit down.
So it's perfectly fine. It doesn't affect me. Like I told you, I have a tribe over here, so it doesn't affect me. But I also wanted to point out this too. You talk about bonding with your kids and how what you do make an impact on you. It's like full circle because you are a mentor, you are a director, you are a leader, and so it just embodies everything that you do. And so I'm really happy to have had you on today. It has been a pleasure.
Well, I want to, before we get out, I want to shout out my wife too, because a lot of this would happen first. So, I have the space and the autonomy to do a lot of things because she allows me to, but also, trust that I'm not going to do something that's going to negatively impact our family. And so I will be remiss if I did not, shout out Dominique Johns and the amazing white woman that she is. Because again, she has a whole lot going on herself. She's in a doctoral program, and so so navigating all these variables, I think is important, and I wouldn't be able to do that without her. So,
man, that is, man, shout out to you, Dominique. Yeah, shout out to you. I could not imagine what that it's like doing doctoral. That's work too. And man, this is just amazing to hear that. And you guys are both supporting each other and allowing each other to have your space. And you guys are raising two young babies together. I mean, they're not babies, but those years are the most important years because they're sponges.
That's a good word for it, sponges.
And they're not quite yet ready to be independent because like once they get older, they're gonna be like, all right. But it they latch on to you and they want to be around you. And I cannot even imagine all the what you do and what she is doing and still kind of balancing that out. So shout out to Dominique.
It's a juggle, as you know. But it may seem difficult in the moment, but again, when you look back over the course of time, you realize it wasn't as bad as you thought it was because you were just in the moment of the difficulty. And this too shall pass.
And you guys are creating something, and it's gonna come a point where you guys are both going to be able to, what's the word? It escaped me. You're gonna be able to enjoy the fruits of that later on, and so that is so amazing. But I do wanted to plug you, and I was trying to type in your so give me a moment. But please tell the people how they can find you while I do that.
Absolutely. So for bacon, excuse me, you can find me on Facebook at A Gentleman Touch Bakery. On IG, I am a baker named Bolle. A_Baker_Bolle. Baker Bolle. Actually the same name on TikTok, although I haven't done anything on TikTok because I'm trying to figure it out because TikTok is a whole new beast and monster. So if you follow me, just know what's coming. My website is currently being developed, and so I've actually just sent over my copy to my creator this week, and that will be at gentlemantouchbakery.com. If you're looking to place an order, get some information from me, you can do that at info. I know I got a whole bunch, right? Info at gentlemantouchbakery.com. And if you want to follow me on my personal social media, it's Michael Gerald Johns.
I'm going to put all of that together. So right now I'm just showing that they can find you on A Gentleman's Touch Bakery on Facebook. And then we also, but I want to type this. You said a gentleman info at a gentleman's touch. And I want to make sure that I'm spelling it. It's with an S.
Yep.
Touch Bakery. Oh, I'm so unprepared always. .com.
Yeah, it's not being unprepared.
I'm a perfectionist, and I'm actually working on trying to not be that way. So I do it to myself. I know, right? Thank you. But you guys make sure you follow him and like his page on Facebook at A Gentleman's Touch Bakery. You can also reach them there as well. And he's also on IG, a baker named Bolle. So A_baker_named_Bolle. So go ahead and follow him there as well. And the website is coming soon. But if you want more information, you can reach him at info@agentlemanstouchbakery.com. So the website is in the works, and I know you told me that. Yeah. But make sure, if anything, if you're not doing anything, go to his Facebook page for sure. And you probably, and they can see all of your they can see your menu, the things that you bake, and they can reach you there as well, right?
Yeah, and I'm actually going to be running a couple specials. I'm actually working on a Father's Day package now, and so I'm going to do a spirit infused box. And so I'm going to do a couple cakes with bourbon, maybe one with Hennessy, maybe do some whiskey or bourbon cookies, maybe a brownie. So I'm trying to figure out the logistics of that, and so hopefully I'll be dropping that within the next couple of days. And I probably will be doing one of my staples, which is called Second Slice Saturdays, where I sell slices every second Saturday of the month. And so next week would be that second Saturday. And seems how my wife is not taking classes next week, I might be able to swing it. So that would be out on my social media as well.
The
next couple of days.
Please do, if you don't forget. And if you do forget, I'm not gonna be mad. But and I definitely will be looking out for it. But Facebook sucks so bad sometimes. It doesn't show you everything.
That's true.
So if you can tag me, I'm gonna definitely share that on both of my platforms.
Okay, so I can do that.
I'm definitely gonna go get me a slice. I can't eat me some cake now. And I had to say it that way. I can eat a slice of cake now. So I was very restricted on what I can eat, but slice of cake I can eat, and I'm definitely gonna be looking for that.
We gonna hook you up. We gonna give you something. Hopefully, it doesn't push you over the limit. Maybe a lemon pound cake. That's a fan favorite. Like I said, red velvet is always a fan.
I love red velvet. That peach cobbler shortcake sounds good too. So I'm like, I'm gonna have to like weigh it out. This is what I'm gonna do. Whatever.
That peach cobbler probably won't be a slice though. That cake is huge.
Is it? Well, I also have a birthday coming up. My birthday is next month. So you look.
When's your birthday?
It's July 23rd. July 23rd.
Oh man, you on the other side. You a Leo. Oh man, I thought you were a Cancer, man. We was about to say, there you go.
No, I'm on the cusp. So I'm like, sometimes I'm a Cancer, sometimes I'm a Leo. I don't know. Whichever. When is your birthday coming up? Is your birthday?
It is. My birthday is actually in exactly a month.
Really?
Yep.
Oh my goodness. July. See, there we go. Okay. Summer babies.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm definitely gonna be looking to give me a cake for my birthday. So yes. No, but thank you so much, Bolle, for this. I know you as Bolle.
That's fine.
Don't leave. I'm gonna end, but don't leave.
Okay.
But I really do appreciate you joining us and kicking off our celebration for fathers this month. Definitely later on, we'll definitely have to have you come back on again.
Just let me know. I appreciate you considering me and thinking about doing this.
Absolutely.
This has been fun. It went by a lot quicker than I thought it would.
Yeah, it did. It was an hour. Well, I know we had a side conversation, and I said it's gonna be conversational. Yeah. And a whole hour went by, and look at us.
Yep,
You did amazing. You did amazing. But you guys, make sure you follow Michael at Gentleman's Touch Bakery and look out for all of those special offers. And make sure you guys sell him out for those slices every 2 weeks. And so make sure you look out for that. Thank you. Tell the girls I said thank you.
I will.
Yeah, but we'll be back next week with another episode with a new guest. So make sure you guys come back next Thursday at 7:30 Central Standard Time. You can find me here on my page, The Whole You, LWC on Facebook, and I am also on YouTube. And I also do share it on my personal Facebook page. So if you guys are friends with me or following me, you can catch me there as well. But until then, you guys stay blessed. Thank you for tuning in and have a good night.